Healing energy to everybody. You ever have those mornings where you just ain't feeling it? I'm going somewhere with this, right? Yesterday, I woke up. I was a little sore. It was Sunday. And I'm just like, I hit the snooze a couple of times. And I'm just like, I'm just going to, I've done a lot. Let me just chill out. And it would have been okay. Like I said, I do a lot. But man, if I had stayed just laid around and just did nothing, I wouldn't experience the amazement of what I went through. Now, in that, I finally rolled out of bed, a little disgruntled, shook it off a little bit. And I told myself, okay, I'm up, but I'm just gonna take it easy today. I ain't gonna do nothing. I've done enough. I've got out the bed. I wanted to stay in the bed. I got up, so I overcame that. I won. Nah. But so then immediately, I went outside, got me some sun, and I came back inside. And I did a little bit of reading. I looked into something real quick. But then I looked over at my phone and I seen something that caught my attention. And the only reason it caught my attention is because I had just had a pretty quick conversation with a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in years, but I've been following his progress, right? And I seen that, he was going to be at a church. Now, I haven't been to church in years, other than, my grandparents' funerals. So I probably haven't been to church in about five or so years to actually see a service. And I don't know what made me look at Facebook because I usually avoid Facebook to a certain part for a certain part of the day until I've actually got some of my lessons in, right? But I looked and I seen that he was going to be at a church that wasn't even his own church. And I said, it might be chill to go check that out. But I ain't got no clothes to go to church in. But as I'm looking deeper, it says, it was dress down time. So it takes that excuse right off the table for me, right? So then I look at my closet and I was like, but I got to iron. Nah, I went to court on Friday. So I had outfits ironed up already, right? So it took that excuse off the table. Then I was thinking, but it started at 11 o'clock. It was 8 something in the morning, possibly 9 o'clock. So time wasn't it. So I get a chance to actually read a little bit, take a shower, and still get prepared, right? But in that, I dragged my feet because I was still indecisive about whether I was going to go do this. Because like I said, I haven't been to church in years. I've always had a kind of a stigma. The last time I had been in church, I carry that stigma that I hear a lot of people carry, right? And it's just my own personal stigma. Just kept me away. So in that, I finally get dressed. And you got to realize when I first seen it, it was like 8, 7, 9 o'clock in the morning. But by the time I finally finished getting dressed, and you can tell I'm dragging my feet, right? It's like 10:15 in the morning. And service started at 11 o'clock. And it's like a probably 25, 30-minute drive because it was in Hopkinsonville, right? Hoptown. So I get dressed. I go downstairs to my car and I'm leaving. And in that, I figure I can make it to the church, get there about 10 minutes early. But then I look at my gas and it was pretty low. And like I said, I had to drive to another city. So I had to stop and get some gas, right? So I stop and get some gas. And I finished getting gas and I look at the time and I'm like, all right, I can still rush and I'll make it there before. But then I realized, damn, respectfully, I got to go get money to pay these tithes, right? So I go to the ATM machine. That ATM machine was out of service. So then I was like, damn, well, I can't show up at church without giving a little bit of tithe, even if just a little bit. That's crazy, right? So I might as well just turn around. Nah. Stopped at another store, picked up a little bit of money. But as I jumped back in my car, I realized, that it was now that little gap that I had that was over. I would now have to rush to get there prior to the service starting, because I didn't want to just walk in late. My mental, right? So I go get a little bit of cash and I zoom down the highway, thankfully, no cops. And I get to church and I get there maybe 2 minutes before the service starts. And I'm getting myself together in the car, boom, boom, boom. And I'm looking at the door, right? And those stigmas that I had polluted my brain with about church, they start working on my mind. Really start working on my mind. Like, do I really want to do this? I drove out here, golly, I really drove a half hour, but I could turn it back around. A half hour is nothing. I could go back home and make it a day. Possibly even just go see some people. I'm dressed for it now, right? But in that, I went outside of myself. I made the attempt. I walked inside. Now, I told you about these stigmas that I have in my head, because like I said, we all make an excuse for things that we don't want to do. Like, I was saying, when you don't want to do something, anything will stop you from doing it. And when you want to do something, nothing will stop you from doing it, right? So I walk inside, and being that I'm so close to the time where church is starting, it's pretty packed. But I realize that there's people coming in after me. So it's people bunching in around. And I'm real big about my space, I'm a New Yorker, used to congested things around me, but I'm really protective, especially now, about my space, my peace, my space. So little small anxieties started creeping up. And then, the church service kind of started on what I remembered, you know, you get the envelope when you first walk in. People are in there looking around. They're, people watching, that stigma. They played into what I what kept me away from church. And then I had to just close my eyes for a second and realize that it's not about anybody that's there. It's about me. Why did I come? It's the purpose that I came, right? And in that, I was overwhelmed, still. Just like I said, it's a place I hadn't been in, going on with these preconceived notions and stigmas that I've had in my own mind that I've had to work through, right? To get me to this point. But so they start off, and the first preacher, he was kind of giving, the classic spiel. He was kind of going through the different things of, why we was there, and we were singing and the dancing and everything else, right? And in my mind, I'm like, it, you know, those stigmas in me, they're red flagging like crazy, right? But in that, I had to get over myself because I was there for none of that. I was there for the message. I was in the house of the Lord. None of that stuff matters, right? So I stayed patient. But don't get me wrong. It's been a couple of times I was thinking about making that bathroom run where I say, well, I made it here. I can leave now. At least I attempted to come. And that would have been the biggest mistake right there. Work past my own insecurities in that, right? And then I heard an amazing sermon by a good friend of mine. Amazing. Because you know how they say when you hear your pastor talk, and it's a real good pastor, he almost seems like he's talking directly to the things that have been working through your mind lately, right? And that's exactly what it was. It, if not, hit the subject base of where I've been at for the past couple of months, but also take it and go deeper into it and actually explore other avenues of that, right? And the way I had felt 20 minutes before that, an hour later, I wasn't thinking about none of that because those stigmas of being crowded and go up and down and up and down, that had all left because I was no longer thinking. I was in the moment of just feeling. And wound up seeing some good people, people I hadn't seen for a while. And I walked out of that church, man. I dropped that tide as we were walking out, but I walked out feeling amazing, right? But none of that would have been none of that would have been possible if I had just stayed in the bed that morning and listened to my own negativity, or none of that would have been possible if I let that my time constraints or this or that or the many different things that I mentioned earlier mess with my mind because literally each one of them was mess with my mind as to why I shouldn't do something. Now, God willing, I went through and I had an amazing day. It even propelled me to leave there because, like I said, it was a 2 hour church service. It wasn't much out of my day, but it propelled me to come back home, change, and go get a workout in. And remember, I woke up that day saying I wasn't going to do nothing. And step by step, I worked out of that negative thought of being complacent and not wanting to do a thing to actually making it before the day was even half over. I had achieved so much to the point where I came home, did a little bit more reading, cooked a nice dinner, and watched a movie, and just really felt great that I didn't let my own negative thoughts of complacency stop me. Because, like I said, it would have been very easy for me to just chill. And I'm so glad I didn't, man. What I'm saying is, man, sometimes you got to go outside of your comfort zone. You got to get outside of your own negative thinking. You got to stop being your worst enemy. I know I have to stop being my worst enemy at times and get out of my comfort zone and recognize that when things are for you or when you hear the voice to do something, don't look for another voice that stops you from it. Just do it. Now, I'm not telling you to be compulsive and to go out. This ain't as far as negative things. I'm talking about the positive things, because it's easy. We get compulsive and it's easy to do the negative things, hard to do the positive things. Man, I'm so glad that I got my lazy ass out of bed and continue to progress to do something. Because like I said, a day where I was just intending to just be a couch potato and just sit around the house and be content with what I had done all week long turned out to be an amazing day of productivity, one that propelled me to just come home and just really reflect on getting over some of my own thoughts. And like I said, you hear me talk about being positive, but sometimes in being positive, you can think you've done enough. And man, when it comes to your well-being, you can never do enough. So thank you for just taking a moment, man, to just listen to me. I'm glad you didn't go by this at all. And healing energy to everybody always. Now, I talked earlier about getting over your negative thoughts, right? And this is crazy, right? Because as positive as I can be, I still get haunted by negative thoughts, right? I go work out, and for a while, I got this ankle monitor on right now for a current case that I got, right? So I used to cover it up for a while. And then I started thinking, why? I have no shame about that. You know what I mean? I know my place in it, and I know that I'm not guilty of anything. So then I stopped covering it. But even in that, my own negative thoughts would have me go to the track and put my headphones on and, not really even look at people, just go do my workout. And then those negative thoughts kind of subsided. And then I get to the point where I would acknowledge people. And then I got past the point of like that to just speaking and like, hey. But the thing that really got me, right, is because I would see women with their kids, strollers, and, they had a family up there walking. And my own stigma would not really have me speak to them, right? Because one, you got to realize something, right? I got kids. So my own negative thought pattern is if you see this guy out there with an ankle monitor on, he must be violent, right? So I didn't really speak to the women who had kids at all, right? For a while. But then I realized that my glow, it, how could I say this it overcomes that whole ankle monitor stigma, right? Where those women seeing my light, they would speak to me, and then I would open myself up to speak to them, right? Hey, how you doing? Oh, this is beautiful. You got the kids out here. Then open up even more and say, man, it must be something to have to get up and get the kids ready to come out here, right? And this is when she blew my mind, right? She says, honey, on the days where I don't want to come out here, they all remind me, like, hey, aren't we going to the track today? Yo, see, my own negative thoughts keep me in certain places, and her negative thoughts would have kept her in a place. But it's crazy, right? The youngest one, he keeps her motivated to do the right thing. Like she's motivated him to do the right thing and got him in a pattern of doing the right thing. And in that, he doesn't even know that he's going to work out. He doesn't even know that what he's doing is healthy. But the healthiest thing he did was he inspires his mom to keep going on the days where she doesn't even want to go out there. Like it blew my mind, right? Because these are people who I previously had just passed by. But since they see me every day or most days, they start recognizing, I'm just out there to do what they're doing. You know what I mean? Get some good vibrations and a good workout in. But in that, it inspired me, man, to like, I recognize that she showed her kid how to be positive. She showed her kid healthy habits so early in life that he don't even know that he has a healthy habit. Like he just knows that he's used to doing this. And in that, he's gonna one day have kids and do the same thing without even knowing the true significance of even where it came from, because he's just always been in a high vibration. He's always known this in his life. I always say, man, it's easier to start a good habit than it is to break a bad one. But I couldn't have witnessed that any more than seeing that moment right there. Now, the funny thing is, remember I told you when I first started going out there, I had the stigma about having an ankle monitor on, right? I don't even think about it anymore. To the point where everybody who comes past me now, it's an acknowledgement, it's a wave. And man, every woman, man, who's out there with their kids, man, I have to acknowledge on how beautiful that is. Whether they know it or not, they're inspiring generations that come after them with positivity, with healthiness. And man, that is a great thing, man. That each one teach one. The first thing is teaching your kids to be better people, instilling healthy habits in them. Like I said, the same people who go out there and have their kids on the walking track for 30, 45 minutes, hours sometimes, right? They can also be the same people who just send them to the back room to go watch TV. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like I said, it's no knock, but it's just what we instill before they even know that it's healthy or it's this or that. We instill things in people that have long lasting effects generations down the road. Man, life is amazing when you just take time to just sit back and just recognize that you find the most beautiful things in the most simplest of times and opportunities and people and just good vibrations. Thank you, man. Just wanted to take a second to tap in real quick. Healing energy to everybody. Have a wonderful day and inspire the next person.